Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? Hope you all are doing great. So in this video I am going to teach you how to draft the princess that busts here with yoke. So sit back and enjoy. So we are going to be drafting this on a pattern paper, and the first thing we need to do is to mark our shoulder line, which is also our starting point. From the shoulder line, I'm going to place my tape down to the bust point, which is 10 inches for mine, under bust point, which is 13 inches, and my waist point, which is 17 inches. Then I will draw a straight line on them. So after I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to place on my shoulder point. I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2. And my client's shoulder measurement is 15 inches. Divide by 2 is 7.5. Then I added half-inch seam allowance for it, making it 8 inches. Then I'll mark it down. Then come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. But before then, I'm going to go in by 3.5 inches for my neck width, and I'll connect my shoulder slope. So from the shoulder slope, I came down by 8 inches, which is my armhole depth, and I'll connect. This my armhole depth is also my chest point. So I'm going to indicate the points that I just marked, and I will mark my armhole line, and I'll go in by 3/4 inch. Then I'll connect my armhole curve. So after I am done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to divide my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 for mine. Mine is 8 inches. Divided by 2 is 4. Then I'll mark it down to my waist point, and I'll connect the lines together. So the next thing I'm going to do is from my bust point, I am going to come down by 1 inch. So after I'm done with that, I'm going to remove 1 inch. I'm going to go in by 1 inch and come out by 1 inch from the underbust to the waistline. Then I'll connect the lines together. And after I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect the lines from the 1 inch I marked. I'll connect it like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to check the distance from my bust point to the underbust point, which is 3 inches, and I'm going to place it from the bust point line to the upper chest line, and that is it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to divide my shoulder slope line from the 3.5 inches I marked, from the starting point of the 3.5 inches I marked. I'm going to divide it by 2. And what I got, I am going to mark the center of it, and I will use my ruler to connect to it. This is what I got. I'm sorry it wasn't showing. I used my back camera. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go in by 1 inch and 1 inch on the other side from the line, the 3 inches line I marked, and I will connect to the bust point, and I will do the same on the other side. So the next thing I'm going to do after this is that I am going to tighten my bust by coming up by 1 inch, and I'll connect it with my ruler. And I will do the same on the other side. So for the center, I am going to close the center piece to be able to cut out our yoke. So the next thing I'm going to do is to start adding the measurements. Okay, sorry, we are going to come down by 4 inches for the neck depth. So my neck depth is 4 inches, and I'm going to connect it to the 3.5 inches neck width. So that is it. The next thing I'm going to do is to start adding our measurements. So I'm going to divide my bust point. I placed my tape on the chest line first of all, and I will divide my client's measurement, bust measurement divide by 4 plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to do that on the chest point too, and I'll add the 1 inch I removed on the chest point. I'm going to have to add it back. So for the under bust point, I will divide my under bust point divide by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inch seam allowance, and make sure I added the 2 inches that I removed on the other bust point. That's these 2 inches. I'm going to add it back here, plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. I will do the same thing on the waist point. My waist point divide by 4. I will mark it down. Sorry, I'm checking the measurement for my client. Then I'm going to add back the 2 inches I removed. I'm going to add it back plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. Then I'll connect the lines together. So the next thing I'm going to do after I'm done with this is to cut out the excesses. I think we are done with the front piece, so we're going to be cutting out the excesses.
Shopping and spending the cash. There is no mercy for money. Makawai, oji the cash. Billionaire, oji cash. Shopping and spending the cash.
So we are done with the front piece. The next thing we are going to do is to cut the back piece. So for the back piece, I am going to draw my starting line, which is also my shoulder line. Then place my tape down to the bust point, to the waist point, and to the under bust point. And I'll connect the lines together. So after I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my zipper allowance. And marking my zipper allowance, I am going to come in by 1 inch down to the waist point, and I'm going to connect it with the lines. So after I'm done connecting with the lines, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my shoulder measurement divide by 2, and I will take it down to the chest point. So I'm going to mark 1 inch for my neck shoulder slope, then come in by 3.5 inches for my neck width. Then I'll mark my armhole depth. So my armhole depth is 8 inches, and I'll mark my chest line from there. So I'll indicate the points, and after I'm done indicating the points, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my armhole curve for the back. This time around, we're not going to go in by any 3/4 inch. We're just going to connect it like this. So I'm going to mark the 4 inches nipple to nipple divide by 2. That is 4 inches. I'm going to connect it from the chest line to the under bust, and I'll go in by 1 inch and 1 inch on the other side, and I'll connect it from the chest point down to the waist point, straight line. And for my neck depth, I am going to come down by 1.5 inch, and I'll connect it to the neck width. And after I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to start adding my measurement, my bust measurement divide by 2 by 4 plus 1.5 inch seam allowance, my under bust divide by 4 plus 1.5 inch seam allowance, and I'll add the excess measurement I removed. I'm going to add the excess measurement I removed, and I'm going to do the same on the waist point. The 2 inches I removed, I will add it back plus 1.5 inch seam allowance, and I'll connect the lines together. The back is going to have a curve at the back, so I'm going to give it a curve at the back like so. So I came up by 2.5 inch, and I'll connect it to the chest point like this. So this is the curve I want to have at the back, and I'll cut it off right now. So this is it for the back piece, and so we are done with the pattern drafting. The next thing we're going to do is to use the pattern paper to draft out from the main fabric, and that is what we are going to do right now. So we are done cutting. Line is the yoke. This is the yoke. This is the two sides of the princess dart, and this is the center piece. This is the back, the yoke, and the down area. So that is it. So this is just a pattern drafting tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, share, and comment on my videos, and please subscribe to my channel. Follow me up on Facebook at Chikadibia. See you all in my next video. Bye.